Testing. 1, 2, 3. Hello again, everybody. I'm Larry Hamilton. Welcome to my YouTube painting channel. Thank you for watching. Today we're going to do a watercolor painting, and I'm going to try to do a floral scene for you. I don't paint flowers too often, but I'm going to try this again and see how we go. I've got some beautiful yellow hibiscus flower photos here that I want to share with you, and I'm going to try to do this in watercolor, and I'm going to try to use the Sterling Edwards painting style as much as I can copy it and use his methods. And so I want to show you first what I've done with the photos and show you some of the photos up close, and then I'll come back to the easel and we'll get started. So I'm going to go to my computer now. Hang on, I'll be right back. Okay, here I am at my computer now, and this is the one of the main photos I've taken of these flowers, and it's actually a scene right here close to home. It's actually my next door neighbor, and she has planted some very beautiful hibiscus around her swimming pool, and I took this photo, and as you can see, it's not a great photo because there's a lot of places where it's washed out almost to white, and so it didn't give a really good indication of what these hibiscus flowers look like. So I took the time to make another couple of photos of an up-close photo, the way they look with the petals all spread out and that nice stamen in the middle. So you can see that here, and you can get a good definition of the how the leaves look and how the buds look in their initial state before they start blooming. I took another one that was not in as much sun, it's more shaded, so it gets another perspective on the color of the hibiscus. And there are all kinds of flavors and colors of hibiscus. You see them with yellow with purple in them, you see them with yellow with red in the center, you see red ones, you see all colors of hibiscus around, and so these are just so beautiful in the sun here in Florida that I thought that it would make a good scene to try to paint. So the last thing I took is took all the color out of it, color balance, and turned it into a black and white, and so this is going to serve as my value map, if you will, and that's what we'll be using to kind of get the placement of the darks. And I may not adhere strictly to this particular composition. I move some of these flowers around a little bit, change their angle a little bit, and so I have those photos up on my easel, and so I'm going to go back over there now. We'll cover that, and I'll cover my paints and brushes, and we'll get started. So hang on, I'll be right back. Okay, here I am back at my easel now. You see my board here. I have my paper. This is Fabriano Artistico 300-pound watercolor paper. It's cold press, and it's 11 by 14. Typical what size I use for most of my paintings. You see the original photo up here at the top. You see my black and white version over here. Then you see these other two close-ups of the hibiscus flower itself. So I'm going to try to make it look like a hibiscus. It may not, but even if it doesn't look like a hibiscus, you'll at least know it's a floral scene anyway. So that's the idea I'm going to try to get here with this. So with that said, I do have a sketch on here, and I've traced it with some this tracing paper, or this paper that puts these kind of dark graphite marks on it, and a little bit too heavy. It's transfer paper, and sometimes they get too dark. So particularly for light colored images like yellow flowers, I don't want these to be too strong because I don't want them to show through as much as I can prevent that. So I take some of them out with just a eraser here, and so that's kind of what I'm going to use for that. So let me go back now to my palette, and I'll show you the paints and colors that brushes we're going to use. I mentioned earlier this is going to be in a Sterling Edwards style. I don't know if you haven't checked his style or not, but I use his palette, I use the brushes that he designed, and I use his color palette as well. So here I have the 3 bristle brushes that are used, the small, medium, and large. These are nice short bristle brushes, really good for blending and softening edges and that sort of thing. I have a couple of flats. I have a 1 inch and a 1/2 inch flat. I have 3 rounds in a rigger. I have a number 12, number 8, and number 4 round, and I have a number 6 rigger here. So I may not use all those brushes, but at least those are the brushes I have available. All right, let me go around the palette one time here, and I'll show you in case you haven't followed me before. You'll at least know what these colors are. These are Holbein transparent watercolors, a very beautiful transparent paint made by Holbein, a Japanese company. This color here is Payne's Gray. I have Cobalt Blue, I have Ultramarine Blue Deep, Royal Blue, Permanent Violet, Green, Gray, Umber, Burnt Sienna, Quinacridone Scarlet, Bright Rose, Brilliant Orange, Quinacridone Gold, Permanent Yellow Deep, and Cad Lemon Yellow. So that's the paints. There's my palette. I'm ready to go. I have a couple of containers of water up here. I'll try to keep one clean and one will be used to wash out my brushes. And I have a blotting device here that's basically a roll of toilet tissue wrapped in paper towel, and it's really good to take the excess water out of your brush. So again, that's a style that I've learned from Sterling Edwards, and so I'm going to try to do this today in a style that he painted a very similar painting just recently. It's on his website, and if you want to see a professional artist paint some hibiscus flowers, you could go to sterlingedwards.com and look for this floral painting that he just did. He also has it available if you want to buy it. You can download the entire video and use it for your own study. And so you can check that out on sterlingedwards.com. I'll have a link below this video when I finish the editing, and you can go take a look at it. And I'm sure you'll know he does a much better job than me, because he does this full time, and he's a very good artist, I think, in my opinion. I like his style. I like his brushes. I like his paintings. So I'm going to get my easel set up here now so we can zoom in and get ready to go. I'm going to move this over here so we can see as much as we can see. And I'm going to turn on my my palette, and you can see that. So we're going to start this out as wet in wet, as I usually do. So I'm going to use my big medium brush here. I'm going to use clear water, and we're going to wet this whole thing down. Excuse me again. And get plenty of water on there to get it so that it's going to have a lot of soft edges in this background. I'm going to make sort of an abstract background. I'm not going to try to paint what's in the photograph. It's really not much of a background, really. It's not designed as a background. It's really just some of the background around their swimming pool next door. So I don't really need to have that as a background for the painting. I want it to make an abstract background. So I'm going to work on that. And I want it to be soft in the background, and I want to save some areas here for the white paper around this flower. The center of interest I'm going to try to make in this area over here. So I'm going to try to save some white paper there as I start putting in some of this paint. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to let that set for a few seconds while I mix up some colors, and I'm going to start getting this yellow color here. I have this lemon yellow. Makes a very beautiful color, and it's very close to the color of these hibiscus flowers that I'm trying to paint here. So I'm going to make a little well of this lemon yellow. I'm going to go back and get some of this yellow with orange in it. Really, it's a little bit different. It's called Permanent Yellow Deep. So I'm going to make a little well of that, and that will serve as some of my shadows. I've got this Quinacridone Gold here that is a very beautiful color. That's maybe a third value in some of my shadows. So I might be able to put some of this in the center of some of these. And so that'll kind of be my light colors there. I've got just pure Cad Lemon Yellow, Permanent Yellow Deep, and this Quinacridone Gold here. And so I'm just going to leave those. I want those to be fairly runny because they're going to be background type of stuff. I may use a little orange later, but I'm not going to put that in the palette right now. I am going to put in some blues. I'm going to get some of this ultramarine, or I'm sorry, that's, yeah, that's my ultramarine blue. I got some green in it, looks like, left over maybe. I'm going to use that color, and I'm going to mix with it some of the gray-green up here. I want this to be one of my green colors for all of these leaves and stems and stuff like that, these buds. And with my various blues, I got this cobalt blue that's a very pretty color. Put some of it here. So I'm just getting some of these colors out so I have them available. I don't have to take time to mix them while I start putting this on in the wet and wet method. So when I come over here and get a little more of this yellow, and I'm going to put it in the center, and I'm going to mix a little of this cobalt blue with it. You see the color of green I get out of that. That's a nice bright sunshiny green with cobalt blue and this lemon yellow. So it's yellow with green in it, and it's giving me a nice nice light color. I can pick up any of these blues and use any of the yellows and get a different green. If you I took now some cobalt blue again. I'm going to get some of this permanent yellow deep, and look at the color of green I get with that. So if you got 2 or 3 yellows on in your palette, and you got 2 or 3 blues, you can make a ton of different greens. And then by adding something like a Payne's gray or green gray or something like that, you can also get now a very dark version of either one of these. So you see how many colors of green and shades of green I'm able to get right here. That's a nice tip you need to pay attention to, because you don't have to have a tube of hunter's green or have a tube of any particular green to get, unless you're trying to match a specific green color. I'm going to put a little more clear water on this now until I want to make it good and wet, so I can get these colors to run and blend together. And I'm in a room here. My studio has a lot of lights, and this stuff tends to dry out fairly quickly, so I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to put just another touch of water on there. I've got my paints pulled together. Lindy, I see you're here from South Africa. Welcome. So if you have any questions or comments for me, put them in the chat window, and I have a computer up here by my left elbow, and I will be able to look at them and hopefully be able to respond to you with some sort of reasonableness. And so we're going to try this thing, and I'm going to start with my my medium brush here, and I'm going to start putting in some of these colors that I've got in the palette. I've got this blue. I didn't put in some ultramarine blue. I want that with some of this purple. I want some of this background to be sort of a bluish purple color here. So I'm going to mix up a little bluish purple. I'm going to kind of start back here and make sure I go around some things. Pick up a little of my cobalt blue, pull it in, and make sure I go around some of these flowers and where I want them, at least, and put that in. I'm also painting vertically, as you know, and if you look at that video that mentioning that Sterling Edwards has done, don't want that totally covered right there. You'll see he paints flat. He paints on not totally flat. He paints on like a 1 inch or so incline, and so he doesn't have nearly the running problems I'm having right here. But this is the way I kind of like to paint, and so I'm kind of keeping some areas open here for these flower buds. And so let's see, I'll go around this guy here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to add a little green in here now. Start putting in a few things around these areas where I know I'm going to have some stems and petals and that sort of thing. This particular one up here is getting all covered up. I'm going to blot some of that out so that I have an area up there that's got more room for my yellows. This is a area here. I've kind of lost my sketch almost, it looks like. But I'm going to see if I can still pull everything together and keep this going. I'm trying to keep the lightest areas here. And just using this mixture of greens and blues, put another little color down here like this, pull it in there, echo that color up here like this, maybe down here on the right. I got some flowers down here. So that's a good start for this, at least while it's in sort of the beginning phases and with the really wet on wet. This flower down here is sort of light colored as well. This is yellow, this is yellow, this is yellow and white. This has a little bit of shadow in it, so I'm going to try to make that stand out. So it's just looking kind of goofy and weird right now. It looks almost like an abstract painting would, with all of these different colors I've got going on here. This is another flower down here. So I've basically got my blues, my purple, and some of my greens in. And right now, this is at a point where I want to let it rest for a little bit, let some of this soak in, let some of it start to dry slightly. But I'm going to come back now and put some heavier paint in there. One of the techniques you might learn if you watch Sterling Edwards' work, he uses a method to know whether the paint in your palette is wet enough or needs to be drier. And his test is if you move your finger through it like that and it leaves an open mark, that means that paint's a little drier than one that has a lot of water in it. If you have a lot of water in your paint like this and you run your finger through it, it fills back in. It doesn't leave your finger mark. So the idea when once you're painting wet and wet like this and you want to put some more color on without it giving blossoms and all that sort of thing, you can do this test to determine how wet your paint really is. And to make your paint go on top of this, you need to have it to be drier in a sense. You know, all of it's wet, but you have to make it drier in a sense. So that means the paint on the palette has to have more paint in it and less water. So when you're looking for some of these mid-tones or whatever, if you run your finger through it, I don't know if this is right yet, but see that little mark there I left? That means that paint is drier than the paint that I put on here because this was all really wet. So I can use this now with my brush and these colors. I've got picking up some greens and some of this. And so I'm going to come in and just start putting in a few things around some of these flowers that I want to hold out space for in here like this. And because that paint is thicker, as I said, it's going to kind of hold its position. It's not going to run or cause a blossom or anything like that. So I'm just putting in some darks now to kind of start showing where I want some of these colors to be. This is got some stem work going on here and around that. Maybe there's a place to leave a stem right there. Try to do that if I can. So now I'm really trying to figure out where things are going. Right here I've got a stem that I want to highlight. Got some leaves in here that I want to bring out. And they're going to touch on the flower of this other petal over here. I'm just using a flat brush. A lot of people will use a round brush, I have round brushes here I can use if I want, but right now I'm happy to try to use these this flat brush because you can do a lot with it. And if right now, if the paint is thick enough and dry enough, I should say, you will let's see here, where am I? Okay, I want to put this up. I've got another area here. It's going to come down like that and just put in some dark marks here and there, like that. Over here, I've got some green. What have I got going on over here? Let's put in a few. I got another trunk going up this way. And one of the things that you can do is to give yourself some soft edges by using this smaller brush and just get clear water in it, kind of take the water out of it, and then just grab one of these edges and really soften it up, and it sort of fills in some of the space over here that you may want to fill in. I want to have that on the other side of this. There's a trunk going up there like that. Okay, and so the idea is to kind of make some of this stuff blend together right now as an underpainting, and give some soft edges to it. Whoops, I just went over my flower. When I lost my sketch here, I'm kind of remember where things are now, so it's a little bit more difficult, but trying to get a good underpainting under most all of this here. These areas that have some flowers in them, they haven't touched them yet, so I'm going to come back and throw in now just a little of this yellow in here, and we're going to try to see if we can get a nice looking flower here. Maybe add a little color to that so that it's not all the same color. This one over here, I'm going to put in some of that color and maybe surround it with some lighter colors here. These flowers typically have 5 petals on them, from what I can tell, and so I want to kind of try to use that. This one here looks like a cup. It's like you're looking down inside it. It has not fully blossomed out yet, and so it's a sort of a deep hole you're kind of looking into here. So I want to kind of get that if I can. And the one up here on top, this one is got a couple of colors in it. I'm going to put in a sort of like a triangle up here because it hasn't bloomed out either all the way. So what I'm seeing up here now is this paper is getting a little bit dry. When I pulled that color down, it gave me dry brush effect. So that tells me my paper is getting fairly dry, and I want to consider stopping and drying it. I'm going to put a few more colors in over here if I can get a few more of this. What have we got here? We've got this color. It kind of comes around like this, big petal like that. Come back and get some more of this other lighter color that's more in the sunshine over here. Something like that. Come in there. Darker down here at the bottom a little bit. Okay, so that's another one. Over here I want to put a little more of this color in down here. Get a little darker. Okay, so hopefully this is maybe going to be my lightest area. Right now it looks like this is my lightest area. I don't want that to be the center of interest over there. So before I dry it, I'm going to come over here and put in some more darks in this area on the left so that I can maybe force your eye back into the painting like this. Put more of this in here like that. Might get a few really dark, get some Payne's gray maybe in here. Like that. Come around here. And so I want to darken this down on this side because I don't want your eye to come over here and look around a lot. I'm trying to put your eye more toward the center, more toward this area over here. I see I'm getting a run right here. Stop it. Right there. Okay. Even getting some up here. I didn't even see. All right. Well, make some interesting colors up there. Doesn't have to be perfect. But I want to see if I can put this in here to give me some more dark on this edge over here. So try that. Add a little more green to it. We've got a lot of greenery in here. And I got a lot of leaves floating around in this thing all over the place. There's a big one like right in here. I want to try to create like that. I'll start putting in some of these shapes that look like they might be leaves of some sort. That was really dry brush right there, what I just did. So I've got to start getting out of here and dry this out because it's at the point where I'm going to either get a blossom or I'm going to mess something up. So I'm going to stop here for a second and blow dry this thing and see if I can get it a little bit drier. I probably won't get it all the way dry, but I'm going to give it a good going over here. So I'm going to turn my microphone off while I do this so you don't have to listen to the noise. Okay, I think I should be back now and be back with you here. This thing looks like a mess now. It's really going through its phase of the uglies, and so I'm going to try to see if we can fix some of that up. Now we're going to start in putting some more darks and try to maybe get some of these shapes in here that look like leaves and get some more dark. An area here that really needs to be a lot darker. If I look at my value map up here, it really has to be a lot darker underneath this main flower here, which once I start putting this in, you're going to see that it really starts popping out this flower here. If I put in a leaf type of thing that goes in like here, like that, it comes down and kind of goes over this way. It's going to give me some of that darkness that I want. I'm going to want some more of this. There is a, let's see here. Okay, so painting in this right corner over here now. I got some really bright leaves over here, but I've also got a lot of dark right in here. This is really in shadow over here. So let's go get some these dark colors, dark green. And let's leave a few spots that we can turn into like a stem of some sort. In here I've got some more. I want it to touch up against this guy here. All right, so I'm just making some interesting abstract shapes here that hopefully are going to turn into something more meaningful shortly. This area over here, I think I need some more dark running down through here. This didn't really get dark enough. Like right here, coming over around this flower petal there, like that. Take my brush and come back and soften a few of these edges here. And up here I want to do the same thing. Soften a little of this, pull it down, and there we go. I'm having trouble making sure you can see what I'm doing here. This is going to be lighter color here, going up that way. All right. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to get some more. I'm going to keep going with some of these dark colors here, and keep trying to fill in some of these areas that I know need to be darker. And we want to have some stem type things going up here with some flower, some petal or some leaves on them. So I'll try to do that, try to make these, the leaves are all a big jumble in here right now, trying to figure them out because they are hard to define right now. That this whole set of photographs are really kind of hard to follow because there's so much detail in there. Okay, but I've really outlined now this guy over here. So I've got something pretty dark here, fairly dark over here. I'm going to put a little more on the bottom here like that. Take my brush here and soften some edges here to get that look. Up here I want this to sort of go up like that and maybe connect with this thing over here. This is just some of the background that we're going to use for this. We'll try to make some leaves out of these things after a while, and hopefully fine-tune the petals and that sort of thing as well. I'm going to get me some more cobalt blue and my lemon yellow here and start putting in a few things over in this area. I've got some leaves that sort of hang out here like this. Gotta make it look more like a leaf. Has a nice sort of a yellow tip on it actually. These kind of come off this way, and this thing comes down here. There's a stem of sorts, and there's a big leaf laying out here like that. And I just realized I kept you all from seeing that. There's some leaves that kind of come up here. So giving a few things that look more like they might be leaves and stems and petals. I don't know. This is definitely a challenge. This may not be a great painting when I get done. I don't know, but I'm going to keep after it and seeing if I can get some make more progress with this thing here. So I'm going to put a few positive shapes in there, and the thing that really looks nice is if you can get some negative shapes in here, like right in here. If I were to put in a couple of things here to help it look like there's a leaf kind of here, and maybe a leaf coming over this way. What we're doing is painting the area where the leaf is not, or coming in this way. That. Okay, we're getting some cool things there. This area here, I don't want those brush strokes standing out, so I'm going to use this brush and sort of tickle those edges a little bit to kind of blend it in so they're softer. I don't know if I can see that as a leaf or not, but try to put some interesting things going on here. Maybe this area here could give me a leaf coming up like that. Turn this into a leaf, maybe some kind. So I'm just making shapes, outlining some shapes that help it look like we've got some leaves going on in here, and then we've got these dark places in between that are something. We don't know what they are. They're maybe in the background a little bit, but they're in between what's going on here. And we want to do the same thing, just sort of soften a couple edges like that. All right. See up here, I want some more green, I think. I'm going to try this cobalt with my orange. It's not really orange, it's this permanent yellow. And see what color we get up here. There's a leaf-looking object. And we might have another one or two here that put a positive leaf shape in. Something like that. Got this trunk coming down here, or whatever. It's a positive shape that's going to blend into a negative shape right here, and going to give us a very cool looking stem right there. And soften this out, kind of pull it down so that it blends together like that. All right, we're turning this into a few things that look like they might belong in a floral painting. How about another little leaf sticking out here that goes in behind this guy, like this maybe. Okay, something like that. This one's got to have maybe a bit of a shadow on it, something like that to kind of pull him together. Okay, so I'm working on these leaves a little bit more here now. Let's see if we got some cool green up here that maybe can show up. I've got another one of these pods, I guess, or a bud, and it's kind of sticking up here, and it's got a bright yellow top on it. I see this area up here on the top is very light. I think I'm going to darken it down a little bit more. Let me see if I want to do that with wet on wet. Let me put a little water there and just sort of soften that so it comes in soft. I don't want that to be really hard. Take a little cobalt blue and mix it with this stuff we've got here, and let's put in a few things up here to kind of put a background behind this. I don't want this to look like it's very light over there. Okay, I think that's helping. I'm trying to get these corners turned so the dark will force you to look over here. So that's kind of the method in this idea here I'm using. Make this a little darker. So just drop my brush. That's not fun. All right, hang with me, folks. I'm working on this as fast as I can. And some more cobalt blue up here. Like that. Just put in some like that, and let's see if we can blend that out a little bit. Maybe make it a little more, pull it into this so we have a little bit of a color change, some something like that. All right, so that's starting to look a bit the way I want it to. I want this to blend together here so we don't have hard edges floating around out there. All right, dark, dark, dark. Let's see, I need some more, maybe a little more dark over here. And take some of these greens and my blues and purples and stuff like that, and it's a really dark thing going on here. And put it around this flower here. Give myself a little more definition and pull it out so it looks like a flower petal. And there's a one turning out here like this. Okay, so I've got a flower here, a little one there, one over here. So I've got about, what was that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flowers and a couple of these buds. I'm going to pick up my round brush and see if I can put a little top on this thing right here. It's got a nice little set of bright yellow on top of it. It's kind of the way these buds look. There's another one over here somewhere like this. It's bright yellow, more yellow than that. I'm painting these positively now, and I want to connect them down and add a few green spots to them because they are kind of breaking out of their bud, if you will. So that's going over here. How are we doing in this area? Okay. Let me see. I'm going to maybe change back to my 1/2" flat now and see if I can get some more dark areas that spend a lot of time trying to get these darks dark enough. And this really looks pretty dark right now. And I may come back and actually make it even darker in some spots to kind of outline these see here, pull it up like this, like that, there, something like this. All right, so I'm getting some of the look of leaves here, just to be a little darker on this side. Okay, and around the top of this, I want to leave just a little bit of a highlight area around the top of this. So we have something that looks like the sun is hitting on it there. That's the idea. And some darks in here between these two leaves. All right. Over here, how's this? I want to make this a little darker under this guy here. There are some dark leaves floating around here that are pretty good size. And just sort of close that out like that. Maybe that's good enough for that edge. Let's see what else we need in here. This looks kind of bare. Pull in some color in here to see if we can just sort of fine-tune this a little bit. I want you to still be able to see this stem coming down here, so I'm trying to make that happen. Okay, and we'll just sort of fill this in with a little bit of this soft edges here. Maybe put a little soft edge up here in some of this. if I make it too distinct and sharp edges over here, it's going to pull your eye over there. I want the sharp edges to come in over here when I get over there. So I'm just trying to make this now so it doesn't pull your eye too much over here. I'm going to put in a little bit of shadow color inside this particular flower, if I can get the right color in there. I want to leave room for that stamen that's in there. If you can see that or not, it's kind of there, something like that, and just a little bit of this purple down here in the bottom to kind of show it. And then add a couple of shadows around here, like this. Might be a little shadow here where this leaf is bent over a little bit. And maybe a few things like that to kind of pull it together. This will have shadow on this side over here. So I'm assuming the sun's kind of coming from the right to the left, and yeah, Lindy, I do have an involved one here today. I thought it was going to be simpler than this, but as most of these paintings go, they end up being a little more involved than you first think, particularly when you're dealing with flowers, because I'm not typically a great flower painter. I don't see the curvilinear side of these things that well, and so it makes me have a little more trouble, I think, than others might have with florals. But I'm going to try to see if I can do this for you and do it justice. And I know that whatever I do here, you all can do better. I was listening to, I don't know if you ever heard of Bill Alexander. He's a oil painter who kind of taught Bob Ross everything he knows. And there's a bunch of his old videos out on YouTube these days, and he likes to sing a little bit on some of his videos. So he was making a song the other day that comes from a Broadway show, and he sang, "Anything I can do, you can do better." It's a change in the way that the lyrics of the song, if you know the song I'm talking about. So I thought that was kind of a nice thought, that, you know, I'm giving you a little demonstration today, showing you as much as I can put down here in in a short period of time, like 45 minutes to an hour, and you will have a lot of time to try your luck at this. And so I think that you should be able to do better than this. And if you do, I hope you share it with me and let me know what kind of luck you had, and how much trouble you had, and that sort of thing. Here's another trunk going down there like that. So I've got a lot of greenery going on here, and kind of want to fill this out a little bit more like this. Let's just keep going. I'm going to move over here and start working on some of these other areas here. I want to get around this big flower here, come in and get some more of my green, yellow, this yellowish green. Now, thanks for letting me know about the palette. On this live broadcast, I have to move the palette around, so sometimes I get so involved in this painting, I forget to let you guys see where I'm painting, and I usually try to keep the palette over here on the lower right side, and I try to remember that, so that when it's time to do something over there, I try to remember to move it, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes I forget and have to remind me. Okay, I'm just putting in some dark shapes in here again. So remember that thought, that anything I can do, you can do better. Let's see here, I'm going to think reverse. Negative painting here. There, like that. Like that. Negative painting. See if I can make the tops of some of these leaves, they look kind of funny. So I'm just sort of making some things that look like leaves out here now, and put a few more things in it, maybe darken them down a little bit. I'm trying to make this particular, this is like a bowl-shaped thing here. It's got a kind of deep in the middle, and it's got a stamen coming right out of the middle of it, coming right up at us. See if I can make that look right. It's you're looking down inside this bowl here, and so it's kind of different looking. I want to put some shadows on some of these tips here and around here where there's so it gives it, hopefully it's giving sort of a rounded look to this thing, so that it looks like it's sitting down in like that. All right, let's get over here and work on another. We got this one up here I haven't done much else with. It's got a nice little dark shadow on this side like that, kind of comes up there. Using this to give me a little bit of some shadows in there. All right, so let's just leave that for now. I see this is changing color on me over here. I'm going to come back and put some more of this orange quinacridone gold in here and put some, see if I can get this to be just a little better done. Not looking great, but this looks like an orange down here. Well, folks, you see me struggle and see what I try to do to recover from it, but I still recommend you go look at my friend Sterling Edwards' website and look at the painting he does with this type of flower arrangement. And I know you'll like his work, or I think you'll like his work anyway. Another here like this. Get me a little bit of a, I got dirt in my brush here. So you want this to be kind of soft and rounded. You can give the tips of those a little bit of a curve. Is what I'm trying to do there with this round brush. Come in and put a few more types of things like this in there and pull it together. This area up here, I want it to be a little darker, maybe in this area. Okay, something like that. Pull some of this other yellow colors in and see if we can lighten some of this up a little bit. Blend it together. This is almost white on the photograph. Just going to come back and lighten it up and come back and put a few highlights in there and try to make it, give it a little shape, I guess, is what I'm going to try to do. This one flower here just needs to have some more detail put in it. This area up here is like a Come on, give me some paint that's not too wet. Up here. Something like that. Comes around and curves in like this. All goes into a center down here that's pretty dark, actually. And it's going to have a stamen coming up out of the center of it. Where is it here? This is what I want to do. Looks like that. And it's going to be a little bit of this darker color around it. Yeah. This area here needs to be softened. Okay, hopefully you're getting the idea that this might be a top of this that's sort of curling over a little bit is the idea. If I can make it look like that. That's always the challenge with these floral scenes, is to try to get these things to look like they're curved in. Plus, my challenge is trying to do this vertically, which I keep complaining about, but I don't change. Maybe I'll change one of these days. I'll start putting the thing down on a horizontal table and using my overhead camera for showing you the painting. I don't know. So up here we got some, I'm just putting in some little stippling type things here that kind of help divide this a little bit, make it look like we've got some things going on around the edges. A little bit of a color there. Soften some of those edges, make them look like they kind of blend in. Okay, some of that dark in the center that you see there is what I'm able to get by putting these really dark, kind of these dark edges around this thing to give it a nice dark look like that. And then if I soften the top edges of that a little bit, you can see that it looks like it's sort of dropping down in there. Hopefully that's the idea. So we're just kind of playing with edges now and some of this stuff to make these look like flower petals, which I'm not so sure. So I'll go back and use some of this bright yellow together. See if I can get a little more work going on here. If I can put a few more shadows in this thing here. Probably don't want all that white at the top, but let me lighten it down just a little. Okay, so that there. I have a lot of stuff to work on here yet. I want to try to put in a few more. I could put in, actually throw in just some of these things out here like this that look like we've got some other floral things going on without actually painting them in. Just leave this real soft kind of a and while I'm at it, I think I want to tone this top down here a little more so that it's not quite as bright. So it helps again pull maybe some of the eye more into this area. Yeah, not crazy about this area right here. I'm going to pull some yellow and I'm just going to splotch it in here like this. Get some pretty dry paint if there is such a thing. I'll throw in a few more things that look like it might be some more flower blooms or whatever. And hopefully that's going to fill that out. It was just looking too dark and gloomy back in there. So I want to try to help improve that. Pull in a couple of dark things here, a little bit darker, get some of this other yellow in there. I don't know what it is, it's just sort of picking up some water there. It's just a flower that's kind of, can't quite see it very well. Probably could have taken out some of that to begin with, but taken out some of the green behind there, but I didn't. I'll go back and touch up some of these stems here with some of these flowers like that. So you've got a stem coming down over here. There's some things going on in here. There's a bunch of little stem-like things that kind of float around in here that turn up, show up in different spots. Something's holding all this together in there. These flowers may have some these leaves have some things going on with them. Just putting a few little touches in here to make it look like we've got something else going on in these areas. They just kind of look kind of stark and barren, if you will. So there's something holding up these flowers and these leaves and whatever you see embedded in here, there's something holding it up. All right, let's see if I can get some more of this area in here. I want this to be even darker. What's that look like? It's got a really dark thing there. It's got the little stamen coming up here like this, like that. This one has a stamen coming up. I got that already drawn pretty well. Let's see. So we'll put a few little dots of color around it to give it a bulb type appearance. Something like this. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's supposed to be making a make it look like it's sitting down in a hole. Like that. And the side over here needs to be maybe brighter and yellower. It's getting some more sun. Okay, I don't know. I'm going to keep messing with this for a while and see if I can improve it a little. But I think I've done a lot of messing around here. Throw on some splatters. Oh, I didn't put the stamens in here. I got this rigger brush here. I'm going to come in and put in this particular stamen. Goes in this guy here somewhere like that, and he's got a bunch of things around the top here that are like this. A little hard to see that. Yellow on yellow is kind of hard to see. Put a few darker things in there. Some areas like that. At least it looks like it stands out a little better. And we have one here even that kind of comes up from this. Like that. Has a bunch of things like that. So right now, that looks like that's the center of interest to me up here. Come back and put just a few more darks around this area here. What I thought was going to be the center of interest, but it didn't really turn out to be that. Put in some of this stuff to kind of identify those petals a little better, and along with that, wipe it out, take my brush here and squeeze all the water out of it, and sort of tickle these edges a little bit so they kind of blend with what's there. So that starts defining that upper edge there. Come back, get some more purple and finish up over this way. Even around this one over here. Now I'm getting a curve thing there that I don't like. So let's just kind of fade it out into something here that maybe has some more connectivity to the leaves or whatever, or on the right side in this area here. Put something between these leaves to help them stand out. Okay, a little bit of splatter and a little more graffiti on here. Get my rigger brush and let's see here, I can get rid of some of these. Yeah, the stamens are these little feathery things on the top when you look at the photograph, which is what I'm having a little trouble painting in. There has to be one over here too. I forgot about him over here. Kind of left him out. Let's put in this. It's got this little job like this over here. Goes down into a little socket type of thing where it like plugs into the center of the flower, and it's usually very dark down there, and it sort of thing comes out like this. And so these little marks I'm trying to make now with this rigger, using my quinacridone gold. are giving me these things that look like we've got the petals going this way, petals coming this way. Something like that. It's helping the definition of these petals at least, so it's too hard. I knew I would make those too. Yeah, those aren't great. But I know you can do better. If you give it a chance, you'll be able to try this. Put in a few things that look like we've got some I'm just sort of trying to fine-tune a few of these things here to look like there's something going on. I don't know. I think I've probably taken about enough time on this thing. I'm going to maybe fine-tune it a little more after this, but again, you're watching me learn how to paint flowers. I don't claim to be an expert, never did. I don't do these very often, so this is sort of an experimental trip for me today. Okay, so I'm just splattering it to throw in some things that make it look a little looser and not quite as hard. And let me see if I can get a little bit of purple on here now. Maybe I can get my name on here with a I don't know if it's going to work. It's going to be too dark probably. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it'll work. All right, maybe made my name possible there with the dark purple. All right, I still think this is too dark in here. Throw a few more little things floating around in here to help lighten some of that up. Just put a light glaze on some of this where I've got maybe too much white paper. Some of these areas here. Things that look like they could be leaves, things that look like they could be parts of flowers sitting in the background or something. I take this bright yellow and put some of it on some of these areas here. It might help. I don't know. I don't want to mess with it anymore. I think I'm going to make it worse. So I'm going to stop and say, there it is. There's my my attempt to do hibiscus flowers for you. And I'll step back and look at it, and I see it looks really pretty dark in here. I probably either need to lighten this up or darken some of this other area around it. So it kind of looks like flowers, but it doesn't necessarily look like hibiscus, other than maybe this one here that's got the nice stamen coming up out of the top. This looks a little funky here. So I may work on that a little bit after I sign off here. But anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to show you today. And thank you for watching, and thanks for tuning in today. And I hope we'll see you next time. If you like this, please like it and share it if you would. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And check out sterlingedwards.com, his website. You'll see him do a great painting in red and green, much better than this, of course. And if you like the music that was on here, check out Antonio Romo's website. He does some beautiful kind of romantic piano compositions, and he lets me use this music on here so you can have something to listen to while you're waiting for me to start and downloading some of the images. So anyway, I think that's all I want to say today. And if you get a chance, check out my Facebook page and my website. And so until I see you next time, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Bye-bye. Okay. Okay. Okay, Lindy, thanks. Glad you all tuned in. I'm going to stop broadcasting now and see you later.